the girl next door, I don't know what to do.
You have to. Hello. There you go. There you go. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. We know we are here before the cocktail, which is a very good incentive, right? To put everything you have into this, and then you can drink to forget. But anyway, well, it's a pleasure to have you all here. I think again, we want to start because what matters is actually to have the conversation amongst. We have a great lineup of speakers, but also a conversation. And again, this should be an informal conversation. But at the end of the day, we are trying here to solve problems, right? The whole point of Fix this time around is actually solutions. And one of the issues, I mean, the Fix started only today, but I have to say I've been in a couple of conversations already, and it's a common topic of issues about upstream, gaps, right? I mean, how much we are struggling as institutions to actually have like sort of consistent amount of resources for project preparation, right? Again, we're just discussing whether the problem is the project, the problem is the money, right? We can discuss that. I tend to send from my perspective, there is an issue of a problem of projects, right? We have money. Solomon were, in a panel just now in private capital mobilization, and basically the point was, again, we do have money for good projects, but again, it's not that hard, that easy to get this project to bankability. So again, right now it's a little bit drilling down into this issue. Where is this, how each of us actually are looking into this from different perspectives, from the NDB side, from the PDB side, but also from, institutions, multilateral institutions like OPEC Fund and so on. And at the end of the day, again, we haven't cracked this issue. Again, there's even if you go to the FFD for the issue of project preparation, and the gap there is featured quite prominently. And again, in that regard, I'm very, very happy that we have, that first that we are doing this, co-hosting this with the Global Capacity Building Coalition, which actually is doing a lot of work in trying to bring those resources in, right? Saying you bridge that gap, how you can identify the gaps and then bring resources, pull them in. And then also, I'm very, very happy to have the Neighborhood Countries Economic Development Cooperation Agency, NEDA, right, also among us. So the way we are going to run this is we are going to have a scene setting from Mr. Perames, right, CEO of the president of NEDA. And then we are going to have two, let's say, speed dating panels, right? So we're going to have two rounds where we are going to actually dealing with different things. In the first one, I'm going to have my co-host, Simon Thompson, who's the managing director of GCBC, the Global Capacity Building Coalition. And again, in each of those, we are going to try to actually hash out some of these issues. I always also ask, I have been asking this morning, what is our wish for Fix, right? One thing that you want to get out of Fix or at least do more as you actually finish this. And then happily ever after, we will go to the cocktail all together, right, and actually have a drink. So without further ado, Mr. Perames, it's my honor to actually welcome to the stage so you can actually do the sense sitting. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Rodrigo. It's an honor to be here today to discuss a subject that plays a pivotal role in shaping sustainable development worldwide, called the technical assistance. The technical assistance is a cornerstone of capacity building, knowledge transfer, and institutional strengthening. It enables countries and organizations to address key development challenges, implement critical reforms, and enhance their ability to drive economic and social progress. As we dive into today's discussion, I would like to focus on two key areas: the existing gap in the current technical assistance landscape and the innovative way to foster collaboration for technical assistance. Despite decades of technical assistance program, many gaps still persist. This gap includes fragmentation and lack of coordination. Many technical assistance initiatives operate in silos, resulting in duplicate efforts, inefficiencies, and missed opportunities for synergy. Multiple international and national organizations often engage in similar technical assistance projects without a unified strategy, leading to resource wastage and suboptimal results. In addition to the coordination gap, many TA programs suffer a lack of local ownership. Several TA programs are designed and implemented externally without an adequate involvement of local stakeholders. This often results in programs that fail to address the unique needs and context of local communities, limiting sustainability and long-term impact. Furthermore, even with TA programs are well designed, their success is often constrained by inconsistent and inadequate funding, which restrict their scalability and long-term impact. Short-term financial commitment from donors may also lead to abrupt program termination, preventing meaningful progress. To address this, securing sustainable financial commitment and diversifying funding sources are essential to ensuring continuity and meeting meaningful change. Beyond financial constraint, another major gap is the limited focus on measurable outcome. Several TA initiatives prioritize activity over outcome, making it difficult to assess their actual impact. Without clear performance indicators, program effectiveness remains uncertain, and lessons learned may not be systematically integrated to future initiatives. Therefore, implementing robust monitoring and evaluation framework that define key performance indication and impact metrics is essential. Finally, as the world becomes increasingly digital, the gap in access to technology and digital tools further widen disparities in TA effectiveness. The pace of digital transformation varies across regions, leading to disparity in access to digital tools, knowledge, and innovation. Many low-income regions lack the necessary infrastructure to fully benefit from digital-based technical assistance, limiting their ability to leverage innovation and development. Distinguished colleagues, to achieve more coordinated, effective technical assistance, we must embrace new, innovative ways to foster collaboration. Given the complexity of development challenge and a fragmented approach often lead to inefficiencies, duplication of efforts, and resource misallocation. By strengthening coordination and promoting synergetic partnership, we can assure that technical assistance efforts maximize their impact and lead to sustainable development outcome. Allow me to highlight some key strategies to enhance collaboration in technical assistance. First and foremost is leveraging regional network and South-South cooperation, which present a valuable opportunity for countries facing similar challenge to exchange best practice, technical knowledge, and innovative policy solutions without reliance on traditional donor-driven approach. Regional economic communities and multilateral organizations play a crucial role in facilitating peer learnings, regulatory harmonization, and capacity building programs tailored to regional needs. While regional cooperation strengthens learning and policy coherence, its success hinges on efficient communication and digital platforms that enable seamless engagement across borders. In addition to regional collaboration, an equally important strategy is actively engaging local communities and beneficiaries in designing and implementing technical assistance programs. Demand-driven and locally owned interventions are far more sustainable and impactful in the long run. Co-designing technical assistance projects with local governments, civil society organizations, and grassroots groups ensure that interventions address a context-specific challenge and align with national priorities and responsive to real needs. Additionally, participatory monitoring and evaluation framework allow us to track progress, adapt programs based on community feedback, and ensure long-term success. Meaningful engagement fosters ownership, trust, and sustainability, making TA efforts more resilient and effective. Last but not least, and perhaps the most critical strategy, is the establishment of multi-donor, multi-agency technical assistance program platform, a pool approach where multiple development partner align resources and expertise can create greater efficiency and avoid redundant effort. Collaborative financing and joint program allow for better prioritization, reducing the burden on recipient country while optimizing technical and financial resources. This platform can take the form of sector-wide approach, global technical assistance funds, or regional development hubs that can coordinate intervention based on local needs and priorities. A TA pool approach ensures that in funding, expertise, and implementation efforts are collectively managed, leading to improved impacts, sustainability, and efficiency. By moving toward a multi-integrated TA ecosystem, development partners can reduce fragmentation, enhance knowledge sharing mechanism, and ensure the resources are effectively channeled toward initiatives with the highest potential for long-term impact. Strengthening collaboration through this innovative approach will not only optimize TA deliveries, but also contribute to achieving more equitable and inclusive development outcomes across sectors and regions. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reflect on this issue, I encourage all of us to ask, how can we make technical assistance more effective, more aligned with local needs, and more sustainable? By embracing collaborative innovation, digital solution, and pool funding approach, I firmly believe that we can enhance the impact and reach of technical assistance worldwide. Let's work together and ensure that our efforts contribute meaningfully to achieving the global sustainable development goals and create a lasting positive impact for those who need it the most. I thank you all of you for your dedication and your commitment to these important causes. I look forward to our continued collaboration in advancing meaningful and transformative technical assistance initiatives. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Your Excellency, President Buttigieg Tirax, for your very well-judged opening remarks. I think that set the scene very well for the two panels to come and for what I hope will be an impactful session this evening, because impact is, it's there on the screen. How can we make capacity building and technical assistance, how can we use innovation to make capacity building and technical assistance more impactful? How can we scale impact through effective collaboration? Which speaks to, at least in the context of private finance, why I'm here from the Global Capacity Building Coalition, which is an unprecedented alliance of UN agencies, multilateral development banks, public and private finance bodies and philanthropies, launched at COP28 just over a year ago. And as the G20 TAP Capacity Building Champion, we've been established as the global convening body for capacity building for climate finance, bringing together the funders, the providers, and the beneficiaries of and for capacity building. And our members include the AIIB, so we're delighted to have Rodrigo and his colleagues here, the UNDP, who we'll hear from in a moment, and of course our hosts, Finance in Common, who put on an amazing event. So my job is to very briefly introduce our panelists. We only have about 20 minutes for the panel, and then hopefully we'll have time for a very quick fire Q&A. At least I was briefed it was a panel, and now I'm told it's a speed dating event. So we'll see how that goes. That's usually just about a minute per person. Then you ring a bell. I shouldn't know this really, but anyway, there we are. But I won't go through our panelists' extensive and impressive biographies in any detail. We'd probably run out of time and would then miss the cocktail. And of course, when you're the last session of the day, the most important thing is to finish on time so we can go across the hall for a cocktail. So think of us as the aperitif to the cocktail or cocktails to come. So it's been a long day. So anybody in the room needs some energy? Renewable energy? Yeah, okay. So with that in mind, we've assembled an inspiring, innovative and invigorating, I hope, mix of panelists for you this evening. We have a strong, I think on the cocktail theme, we have a strong schnapps from Germany, a dry gin from England, a smooth red wine from France, and a crisp soju. I had to look that one up, from Korea. And I think, Rodrigo, you provided the fizz earlier in that. So coming together, hopefully to make a knowledge Negroni, I'm going to call our cocktail tonight. Definitely not old-fashioned and hopefully very cosmopolitan. So let me introduce our constituent spirits and mixers to the stage. So first of all, Sarah Weiss, if you'd like to come up and join us. Sarah is from GIZ, the German International Development Agency. Although Sarah joins us tonight as the Deputy Lead of the Investment Climate Reform Facility. We have Thomas Bello, the Director of the UNDP Sustainable Finance Hub, which hosts more than 20 collaborative capacity building initiative projects and does more than most bodies on sustainable finance capacity building. We have Jérémy Pellet, the Director General of Expertise France, but this evening Jeremy is joining us on behalf of the Practitioners Network, which brings together 25 European development organisations, and the very final twist to make our cocktail really stand out, Si-Yoon Lee Bokien, who's an international cooperation and development expert with the Seoul Urban Solutions Agency in Korea. So to begin with, and let's start at the end, because Sarah, you feel so far away, Sarah. So I'm going to ask each panelist for their initial thoughts and perspectives, brief initial thoughts and perspectives on how we can make technical assistance and capacity building more integral to mobilising public and private finance and the real economy for climate and SDG action, and to briefly share a couple of examples of how sort of your organisation or your network has done this. So let's start with Sarah.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for the invitation, and happy to be here. I hope to meet the expectation of a strong schnapps. First, let me just briefly explain what the ICR facility is and does, to give you a bit of background for what I would like to share. We are a demand-driven facility that is funded by 4 different European partners jointly with the organization of the OECPS, that's the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, and that's jointly with the EU, the German government and British Council. We're implemented by 4 different European agencies, so we're just hearing about bringing together expertise, so that's what we're trying to do. And where do we work? We work across African, Caribbean and Pacific states, covering 77 countries, quite a broad range and region, and very diverse region. We exist since 2020 with the objective to support business environment and investment climate reforms. And we have a specific component working with development finance institutions to whom we provide technical assistance. And here I would like to mention that we're focusing on strengthening the institutions as such. We're not linked to any kind of credit line or funding line, and also we're not linked to a specific topic. Just to share a bit of the experience, since 2020, we've worked with over 60 banks. To over 20 of them, we provided tailored technical assistance. I will get to that in a second. We held nearly 70 workshops and developed over 130 trainings, reports, etc., focused on the topics that our partner banks were requesting to work on. Since 2022, we focus on mainstreaming gender and gender lens investing and women economic empowerment into the work that we do. We do this with a focus on internal activities, so how is the bank set up, but also client-facing activities. Let me share a few examples of our work, if I may, so that it gets more tangible what it is that we actually do. Usually we start with a gender assessment to see where the bank stands. And this, often actually leads to the development or revision of gender policy strategies and action plans in our partner banks. And to share one a result, actually, one of our partner banks throughout this assessment realized that gender was not anchored somewhere in the bank properly. So basically, the bank then budgeted for and then hired a gender specialist who's now really promoting this topic within the bank and its client activities. We see that often the data doesn't really exist for the banks to know the share of their portfolio that benefits women. And that's a reason why often we work with our partner banks on M&E, to strengthen M&E frameworks, and so that they're better able to report on M&E, which then ultimately can lead to new partnerships. And coming to the lessons learned that we have also seen over these past 5 years and the broad range of partner banks we've worked with, we've seen that actually with a tailored and targeted technical assistance approach, you don't need a huge amount of money to get to a result. Each of our projects doesn't go over 100 expert days. We do tailor our activities to the strategies, objectives of the respective institution. How do we do that? We, jointly with our partner banks, develop work plans that outline the topics and activities that we should cover. And we also heard already about the importance of not doubling anything, because the idea is to be complementary. So what we always do is also ask our partner banks, who else do you work with and on what? And for instance, one of our partner banks actually made a list what ICR facility can provide also and should cover, and also what other partners cover. And then we interlink these activities to really make it synergetic. Just, if I may, 3 short examples.
I'll allow you one example, I'm afraid.
All right, one example on how we also, through our work, support our partner banks in accessing international funding. One of our partner banks we supported in preparing the GCF accreditation, and very happy to share the news that it very recently now, I think last week or so, this GCF accreditation was granted. So we're happy for our partner bank, of course, and to have been part of that journey.
Thanks, and hopefully we will have time to come back with the second question to share some more examples. But let's come back along this path. Oh, I should just say, so I love that phrase. It was very poetic: tailored and targeted technical assistance. So it really trips off the tongue. So I think that's one to hold for us. Tom, another T.
Very smooth moderation. Hi everyone. So I come from UNDP, and I think it's just worth saying a little bit about UNDP, because we're like GIZ in many ways. We're a development institution, not a finance institution. So all of our money is grant money. We don't do financial deals in developing countries. The large majority of our annual delivery of $5 billion is TA and capacity development. It's basically what UNDP does. Historically, it's been focused on ODA delivery, public finance delivery, but in the current context within which we all live, the tilt that UNDP is trying to put in place is towards using TA and capacity development to unlock private capital for sustainable development. And that's increasingly important as our development sector shrinks, frankly. So within that context, we're looking for new ways of partnering across development institutions and finance institutions. And that's not always easy, because the language, the structures, the incentives for staff in those institutions are very, very different. But at the same time, when we begin to understand each other better, we can see where a development institution may come in with TA and capacity development in ways that a finance institution would find difficult. And one of those ways is quite simply that UNDP is a country-focused organization. We're in 170 countries in the world. We're seen by our partners to be kind of neutral, because we're not there to make a deal. We're there to provide support, and that allows us to get inside governments and institutions and partner in ways that are very different to financial institutions. And let me just give 2 examples, although I'm sure I'll only be allowed to give 1, given the time constraints, but let's see. I mean, the first example is an example which I think development agencies need to do much more of. And this is where we're working with Italy, both the finance institution in Italy, CDP, as well as the government of Italy, the Ministry of Environment. And the Ministry of Environment came to us with CDP and said, look, we're having trouble finding bankable projects in Africa on climate and renewable energy sector related investments. Can you help us through grant finance capacity development support provided through the Italian government to build those bankable projects for the development finance institution CDP then to invest in? And it's that type of tripartite cooperation which is using grant finance to unlock private capital through the finance institution, which I do think we need to see much more of. The second example, which I'm now able to sneak in because I haven't been stopped yet, is around working with development cooperation agencies and ministries of finance to try and build actually the relationship between development cooperation and ministries of finance in a more coherent way. And we're doing that with Spain, Italy, Sweden, the European Commission, through something called the Integrated National Financing Framework Facility. And that's all about trying to build financial plans which provide clarity to DFIs, public development banks, private sector, on investment priorities that government wants to see invested. And I'll say a bit more about that when I'm sure I get a second chance.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you for being brief and succinct, because we want to give everyone a second chance to pick up on some of those points. And so you, and I know also one of the things we talked about in advance was triangular, tripartite cooperation. So we'll probably bring that out later. But let me turn to Jeremy first of all. So it'd be, if you could share your thoughts from the perspective of the practitioner network, please.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And I'm very glad actually that capacity building technical assistance is on the table of FIX. I'm chairman of Expertise France, the French cooperation agency, for the last 6 years, but I've spent 14 years working on international finance for two members of FIX. So quite glad to, and I'm surprised to see how those two worlds still ignore. And maybe to start with that, I think that the old days of all technical assistance are over for actually quite a long time. We are talking about innovative technical assistance. If I look at the way within the practitioner network, this is a network of all the European cooperation agencies, GIZ, Enable, Expertise France, etc. We've been spending the last 2 years focusing on better working with the financial institutions and better articulating those two worlds. We do that at several levels. The first one is probably, and it has been mentioned, how to mobilize technical assistance for project preparation. We have superb examples. To take an example of what GIZ is doing with the cities in Africa, with the City Climate Finance Gap Fund. It's really an impressive program. Enable is doing that in Mozambique too. We are also, I think, working more and more when loans are accorded to states, and what has been for the long time the prerogative of the MDBs, coupling technical assistance and loans. We do that more and more, and actually that's the DNA of Expertise France now, that we've been put together in the same group as AFD, and we do that. The second level is the capacity building to develop the private sector, and in that regard, Sarah has mentioned it, but the ICR facility is a fantastic example of an instrument at the service of the PDBs to develop markets. And the last level, and Thomas has mentioned it, is the reinforcement of the PDBs themselves. We had a side even this morning on the development of the networks of Caisse des Dépôts in Africa, successful examples of mobilizing the resources of the diaspora to finance domestic infrastructures, working with a lot of PDBs, and we will continue to do so. Even having embedded experts within the multilateral development banks for that. So we need to make sure that this innovative way of working is well known by the entire community. So in that regard, the fact that it's now embedded within the program of Finance in Common is a great thing. We need to continue to do that. Certainly, we need also to continue the dialogue at the European level. We are actively promoting this dialogue within the PN and the other networks of DFIs and international development banks. We need some finances, we need some resources. As Sarah has mentioned, actually, technical assistance is not that costly, but still
it's an investment. It's not a cost.
It's an investment, definitely. It's not aid. We need to get rid of that vocabulary. We need some flexibility. We need some alignment. Also, long-term alignment with within the countries with what the PDBs and DFIs are doing, and we need to develop a kind of comprehensive offer for our clients. I think that what we should do at the end of the day. Thank you.
That's a very comprehensive sort of answer. One of the things I'd like to pick up on there, you said, we need the world to know about this. So challenge for everybody in the room, take a picture, tweet, or put it on LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. And if you can, tell 10 people about what the ICR and the other initiatives are tomorrow. We'll come back here at the same time tomorrow and bring those 10 people, and whoever's told the most will get a prize. I'll work that out overnight. But yeah, the prize we've now all been waiting for is Siyun. So Siyun, perhaps if you could pick up on the first question, and then maybe also in the interest of time, perhaps you could sort of extend the answer to look at, I know what you want to talk about, we're calling triangular cooperation as well, and then we'll very quickly go back down the line again.
Sure. So I'm from Seoul Metropolitan Government. I think I'm the only agency from city level government. So we are from the Seoul Urban Solutions Agency. We are working for international cooperation with partner cities, mostly in developing country. But we are expanding to partnership having with a developed country. Previously, Seoul Metropolitan Government is capacity building training in the specific fields like metro or water resource management. But once we started to have some technical assistance program, we faced many challenges are interconnected and multifaceted. For example, water resource management cannot be just ended the water resource management, could be expanded smart city or other areas, for example, like disaster management as well. So we started to expand our role as a city government and to have other cities. We launched the project named Seoul ODA Challenge last year, having partner cities having consultation and technical assistance by inviting some local government officials to Seoul. When we designed this program, thinking the financial gap was our priority, because after this capacity building, we hear some aspirations from the city government or other partner cities, but we want to realize it, but we have limited resources. Then we thought about the model like Simon mentioned before. We built a relationship with the Ministry of Economy and Finance and other agencies or other ministry has their fund to realize our aspiration that we heard from the technical assistance. Because Ministry of Finance, they have trust fund in MDBs and they have their own international cooperation fund. And when you have some application for get some fund from the ministry, they prefer to have some project has some previous history, not the ground zero one. So we leveraged our history that we did some invitational training and here's some inspiration. We made this project concept paper, and then it continues through the Ministry of Finance support and other MDBs trust fund. So that's how we tackle down this financing gap. And since from this year, we are expanding our partnership with MDBs so that we can have more aspirations from the partner cities or MDB staffs directly. And we are also building one with AF. We are trying to build one with AFD group as well. So which one is, we are starting with the countries nearby. So like in Indocine, like Cambodia, Laos, or Vietnam, because we can support some fund and we can offer some expertise. But the AFD or other groups or MDBs, they have more networks, they know more aspirations. So we want to build some triangular connections. It doesn't need to be just one directional knowledge transfer. It could be sub-national, sub-expertise. It can be, we can learn from our partner cities as well. So we want to not limit ourselves, don't put the boundaries. We just want to connect with developed countries and developing countries so that we can make more synergies.
And thanks for bringing out the point about regional collaboration as well, which the keynote speech also brought out too, because I think that's, showing the expertise within the region is so important and adds the local context to that. So, Jeremy, and I will apologise to my panellists. Everyone can have 90 seconds for their next answer. You're on the timer. There'll be a buzzer. Will come on. But we have the second panel to come. So, one really key topic, Jeremy, which we discussed earlier, but I think everyone in the room will be aware, is the importance of monitoring and evaluating capacity building. How do we really know what works? So how are you and your colleagues at the Practitioners Network sort of thinking about, and very briefly, I know it's a big subject, sort of measuring and evaluating impacts and outcomes?
No, it's an absolutely key issue, and I think today 100% of our projects are assessed, and we know that the final results of capacity building can be long, and it's not always. Public policy reform takes time in every country in the world. It's not there's nothing new in that regard. However, we definitely need to prove in every project we do the result. An example I usually take is the mobilization of local resources in a very complicated country like Guinea, Conakry. We've been working with the tax administration on how to include middle-sized companies within the formal sector. We've been doing that for 3 years, and actually Guinea has doubled its fiscal resources in that particular kind of companies. So that's a very tangible result. We really need to showcase this kind of example, which are absolutely necessary today in a time where this capacity building action is put under pressure as the rest of the international cooperation. So if we need to continue doing the demonstration that cooperation is better than conflict, we need to continue being assessed and accept that in some cases programs don't work. In many cases they actually work.
That's brilliant, and that's a great example you shared there as well, because it's the example of the outcome of capacity building, not just did people like learning something, it actually, in the case of increased tax revenues. Great. So Tom, coming back to you. So, briefly in the introduction, I sort of talked about how the UNDP hosts a very wide range of capacity building initiatives, and you eloquently described just how much you're delivering at country level and with lots of partnerships and things. But how do you and your colleagues promote collaboration, the sharing of good practice across that that enormous universe that the UNDP covers, so we don't sort of reinvent the wheel?
It's an impossible question in 90 seconds. Thank you very much.
Maybe
just to finish with it, just 3 sort of priorities I think that I see in front of us. I think the collaboration across development institutions and finance institutions on TA and capacity development enables us to connect 2 very important parts of the agenda. One is transactions, and the other is systemic change. And that, I think, is the solution that we're all trying to find in this mix. To help us do that, we absolutely need to find ways to identify the country leadership that will drive this agenda forward, because collaboration and rationalization of TA and capacity development will not happen without country leadership. I think there are 4 tracks where we could look at collaboration around TA and capacity development in the context of unlocking private capital. One is looking at our comparative roles in policy de-risking. The second is looking at our comparative roles across development institutions and finance institutions in financial de-risking. The third is looking at pipeline development across what could be very small projects to what need to be very large bankable projects, and really addressing that whole spectrum. And finally, most importantly in my mind, is looking to ensure that impact is embedded into transactions and embedded into systems.
Brilliant. And yeah, I think that de-risking angle, both the policy de-risking and the financial de-risking angle, is something that often isn't appreciated by financial institutions. That, you know, to put it bluntly, if you have people who know what they're doing, if you have a stable policy environment, if you have financiers, wherever they come from, who understand the transactions, understand the real economy that lies behind them, actually you've de-risked it quite successfully. And in a previous life, I worked with too many bankers who sometimes didn't know what they were doing. So it's quite nice to have those that do. So Sarah, and if I can come back to you, and hopefully this will allow you to kind of share one of those other examples that I cut you off, which I'm very sorry for earlier. So one of the things you were highlighting, the importance of demand-driven capacity building. So, but can you tell us a bit more about what that means in practice? And how does the ICR and working with your beneficiaries operationalize that demand-driven capacity building?
Thank you. Happy to. So one is definitely what I alluded to earlier, that when we work with individual banks, we jointly develop a work plan which outlines the activities. And also what has been a demand that we have seen is really the need for exchange among peer institutions. And there's a huge unmet demand for this. And it's not just, let me say it that way, on the senior executive level, but also very much on the technical level. So how we try to address this is we have put in place different formats for peer exchange among partner banks across the region that we work with. One is a peer-to-peer exchange format for specific topics that run over a series of weeks. And it's not a training, so it's not kind of someone giving input to the banks, but every bank is bringing an example from their own work. It could also be a challenge that they face, which they put up for brainstorming with their peers. And the idea is not only to share what works or maybe what doesn't, but also, of course, to build a network among people who work in these institutions. So this and an example also how we do this in one of our formats that was on wholesale lending. We had, for instance, one of our partner banks share its experience. With that bank, we conducted a gender scan, not only in this institution, but also in 4 of its partner banks, private financial institutions. And ultimately, this scan has led to higher female representation on the boards, and B, to a higher share of female borrowers. So partnerships definitely are important.
Brilliant example. Thank you. And well, so thank you to all my panelists for joining me, and for it was a brief, I know, but hopefully refreshing cocktail of capacity building with a few flavors for me standing out. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but we heard about the importance of tailored and targeted technical assistance, the importance, I think, Tom, in your first intervention, you talked about the importance of neutral providers. I thought that was a really interesting phrase to use, and that kind of led us into thinking about, you know, tripartite and triangular cooperation as well. Importance of that. Jeremy, you had a phrase about capacity building being at the service of, you gave the other public development banks, and that, I think, is a really lovely phrase as well, and comes to the heart of that demand-driven capacity building too. And then behind all of this is the importance of sort of monitoring and evaluation of outcomes. So please thank my panelists, Sarah, Tom, Jeremy, and Siyun. You look forward to have a drink with them later in the cocktail if you can. But for now, let me hand over to Rodrigo, who in his sparkling way will introduce the next panel. Thank you very much.
Well, that was great. And again, I mean, I think it gives me hopes. In fact, I think that we should have this as a round table, right? So probably each of us here, we have ideas on these things. And actually it was very, very helpful. So like, there are concrete stuff, concrete things that we can do to actually solve this problem. And we need to think together how to do it, frankly. I think, you know, we don't, and I think today we have Adama here, which is the Secretary of FIX. Thank you, Adama, for, you know, your presence, you will be giving the closing remarks, right, on this. Yeah, so we have a responsibility there. But the point is, people were saying that one of the functions of FIX should be to actually bring these things to life, right? I mean, things to light and actually exchange information. I think it's important that this is actually an amplification platform, right, in many ways. So without further ado, then I'm going to introduce the next panel, right? There are many friends in this panel, so it's really nice. So first of all, we have Solomon Quaynor, right? Solomon, please come to the stage. Solomon is the Vice President of Private Sector Infrastructure and Industrialization. I'm very happy because I missed to moderate Solomon in the previous event, so I'm very happy that I can do this. Yep. Then Viviana Gonzalez, Vice President of Strategic Development of FONPLATA. All right, they tell me that FONPLATA actually doesn't have money, they have projects, so we figured out how to do that. Adebayo Babagola, Adebayo, also Director of Strategy Planning of OPEC Fund. He tells me that the OPEC Fund doesn't have any money. I don't understand that. Still, maybe when we do energy transition, but so far, I don't understand. And then we have Sweli Bansi, Sepula, from the Southern Africa Development Community Finance Resource Center, SADC DFRC. So please come to stage, and now I will switch places. Okay, multitasking. So basically, look, we have 30 minutes to do this. So speaking about speed dating, because I have my friend Adama here that should be doing the closing remarks. So I will do the following. We'll do one round, and then we have time. Then we do again. I think that Simon said why one fire start. But again, you're coming from different places. So I will start with Solomon on this one. In the previous panel we were discussing about private sector mobilization, and again, Solomon was saying it's coming from the IFC before coming to the African Development Bank, and say, well, in some cases, projects were coming easily to some regions, but for example, for Africa, that wasn't the case, right? And then you figured out and say, we need to put more of that, on the upstream side. But that's not actually necessarily easy to do, right? So you are in the African Development Bank, right? A lot of private sector people think that our job from the NDBs is actually to bring projects to bankability so they can do it. And we shouldn't actually finance the easy project. You should finance the hard ones, right? So I would love that you can actually tell us, Solomon, how you doing. Your KPIs are based on business, right? So, so you have to really solve this problem if you really want to succeed in your job, right? So I would love you to say that. And again, let's actually keep that wish for FIX for the second round. But if you can give us the gaps and also some solutions that you are finding, including working with partners.
Okay. So that's a bit of a difficult one, but I'll try to.
We don't go to the moon because it's easy, Solomon, right?
Yes. No. So one of the interesting things about the African Development Bank is we do both public sector lending,
right,
and we also do private sector lending and investments.
Right.
Yeah. So it allows us to really be solution oriented,
right,
and not necessarily product oriented. So what does that mean? It means we do project preparation for projects that could be public sector financed. We've also in the past been doing project development invariably for private sector. But as I mentioned earlier, we realized that we were doing it very ad hoc. It wasn't systematic. And so this led to the creation of Africa 50. And Africa 50 wasn't created to only do infrastructure project development. It was created to really look at what I call the early stage of infrastructure development, which is mostly around development and the equity investment. Whereas, the debt investment would tend to be project financed, as usual. So for us, in the past, probably when there was great fiscal space, public sector, was dominant, and we are primarily a public sector institution. But the thinking is now reversed because there's limited fiscal space. So there's a cascade principle. If it can be done by the private sector, go that way. But whichever way you go, you still need to actually invest time in good project preparation, right? And ultimately, if you want to get the best results from private sector, then government should take the lead in a lot of the project preparation work. Otherwise, if private sector comes in to develop the project, well, they're going to ask for exclusivity. They're going to ask to be able to negotiate the subsequent concession agreement or the power purchase agreement, etc., after they've done the project development. So it can be tough, but whichever way we look at it, and if you remember, what I said is we take a value chain approach, right? We look at the whole value chain and see how best to really support. But the biggest gap is really the absence of bankable projects. So whichever way we cut it, we have to really focus on a combination of project development and project preparation. And for us today, what we've said is that given the impact of climate change, we cannot really continue to do infrastructure project development the way it's happened in Africa, where the gestation period is about 7 to, even in some cases, 10 years. So we need to be able to do it within 3 years, okay? And we also want it to be focused on green infrastructure. So it's almost like, double whammy, right? So this is why we've created the Alliance for Green Infrastructure in Africa. And we have brought in different funders because we realized that there's not enough grant funding around to simply use grant funding only for project development. So what we've said is, no, let's bring in the grant portion. It could be philanthropy. It could be, bilateral donors. Let's bring in the junior equity, and then let's bring in the commercial tranche. And we've done this really to create what I call a contestable market for project development. Project development is not really done by the AFDB. It's not done by the MDBs. If you look very carefully, it's always a smart local developer who comes up with the idea, but they don't fully have the skills and they don't have the money. So the Alliance for Green Infrastructure is intended to bring the skills. So the idea is for local developers to work with experienced developers, okay, like Africa 50, but it could also be like Aqua, it could be like, Scatec, it could be like Globalec, etc. Okay. And to work on a co-development basis to actually bring these green projects to bankability quickly, with scale, with speed. So that's an example of where we're creating really a platform that essentially we hope would reduce the need for doing, project development and project preparation over 8 years to 2 to 3 years, and also bring the right skills.
Great, Solomon. I have many questions about that, but I will hold them. Many questions not for today, but obviously it's the issue of when you are project preparation for private sector, you have always the question about subsidies, right? And should we put public money to prepare projects that should be prepared by developers, right? I think so. I think not for now, for parking question, but it is a question about how we deal with that and why or where we think that actually it's important to put that sort of subsidy into that or the public sector. I think that's an important thing. But also you mentioned, these are the type of project or the models that could be replicable in different regions, right? We find the same thing in Central Asia, in Southeast Asia, I'm sure, in Latin America. So with that, it's a very smooth transition to Viviana. So because, the thing is, Fomplata, you're supposed to know you are very close to the local institutions, right? One of the things actually about FICS, about PDBs, is the localization, right? Your capacity to be closer to that. Solomon was saying most of the things happen by local developers, right? So it's not by that. So, and I think one of the questions is how we can engage with people or with institutions that are closer to the local developers actually to do that. So with that, can you tell us a little bit, about your experience with this? What you're struggling with? And if you found some ways to actually at least start closing that gap, right?
Thank you, Rodrigo, and thank you for having us in this panel. Let me explain a little bit about Fomplata. We are a regional development bank integrated by the 5 countries that are part of Mercosur as well: Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. So, like Rodrigo mentioned, we work very closely with our member countries, and also with subnationals, because in Argentina and in Brazil, we have a lot of projects with the municipalities. and it's this is very important because we work very close to there to ensure relevance and ownership. And in that matters, like we work, we made tailor-made projects and programs with them to better fit the necessities they have. So for us, it's very important because we not as OPEC, we don't have limited resources. So it's very important for us to strengthen our partnership with MDBs. Actually, we work with OPEC Fund. We have recently signed a facility agreement with them, and we co-financing technical assistance, but to create to construct a pipeline of projects, and we are looking for 3 projects in Brazil already. So. And it's very important that. And also we have Sucre Declaration. It was an agreement with IDB, with CAF and CAVE to work together in the region. It's very important to act in complementarity and reduce the duplication of efforts. Our region is working on the regional integration not only in infrastructure, but also in energy and innovation. So they need that we work together as MDBs to better respond to the needs they have. And on other, I think it's a very important example of working together, that it's a project in Uruguay, building sustainable wooden houses. And it's not only innovative because it brings technology in the construction and the building, but also because it involves not only NDBs, but also the national government and local organizations, and IICA that provides a technical experience. So I think that the answer is if we work together, if we work complementarity, we maximize the impact of the technical assistance in our region.
Very good. And again, no magic bullets. I think it's actually a lot of hard work, right? I mean, again, connecting, partnering, and doing the things, and then actually trying to scale. I think one question, obviously, on these things is how scalable they are. But again, I mean, Solomon, it's like, having a couple of things which are at scale, right, that you do in Africa, and they are like working, right? So I think, there's a lot to learn there. Again, my sense is sometimes we tend to actually believe that things, we have to recreate the wheel, right, in something else. So we should, think, the guys, let's call the guys that did this in Africa, see whether they can help out in our region. So thank you so much, Vienna. And again, so Bayo, you were called, right? I mean, I think, where's the money, right? But the thing is, I know OPEC Fund has been putting some of these, partnerships, not only, with Fomplata, but also with the Asian Development Bank, not yet with the AIB, I don't know why. I mean, you should tell me now. But you have experience doing that, and definitely you are trying to tackle it. So can you tell us a little bit the experience and how you're doing?
Sure. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rodrigo, for the introduction, and thank you to the IIB for inviting us to this session. We're very happy to be here. We are the OPEC Fund for International Development. We work in 125 countries. We are owned by 12 member states, and we've been around for about 49 years. And contrary to what Viviana said, we don't have unlimited resources. We're subject to the same fiscal constraints that MDBs are facing at the moment. But seriously, in our experience, of course, a key pain point is project preparation. Getting access to bankable projects, both on the private sector side and even on the public sector side, has been a key headache. And it's increasingly a major headache because we have a transformational growth objective. Over the next 6 years, we expect to deploy $20 billion in financing, which, if we put in context, in our entire 49-year history, we've just about deployed that, right? So we're accelerating our impact, but we need to find the pipeline for this. So one of the first things we thought about doing was to repurpose our concessional resources that we had access to. So we have grants resources, and we first changed the policy to ensure that 90% of all our grant resources are focused on project preparation. That's the first thing we did. And then the second thing is, collaboration for us is critical. That's really the only way we can achieve our objectives, So like you said, and like Viviana said, we started talking to the other MDBs to see how we can put in pooling arrangements. So, we have a pooling arrangement with the ADB, we have with Fomplata, with CAF, EBRD. And I assure you, Rodrigo, we're working very hard on the AIB. I'm on the record now, so we'll get it signed. But seriously, and even the World Bank and the FAD, we have cost-sharing arrangements as well, which is a form of this arrangement. And because we see that, as His Excellency the President of NEDA said, it really increases efficiency. It reduces the duplication of efforts. And we also have streamlined approval processes. So as a result of these arrangements, everyone is focused really on getting the job done, getting the project preparation done and then financing the projects. And it's actually working. I was just looking at the data, and over the last couple of years, and we're doing this on a pilot basis, right? So it's small amounts of money. And $3 million in project preparation financing has unlocked for us $700 million in projects. And this is just our portion. In the overall project cost, we're looking at excess of $3 billion. So imagine what happens if we're able to scale this out in a more collaborative, more structured, more systematic way across the MDBs. So for us, it's a critical focus. It's something we're very focused on. And just moving on slightly, because the theme of this session is how to drive impact with global cooperation. And I think Thomas inspired me with his example and the need for us to work together. And I fully agree, because a lot of agencies, apart from just the MDBs, have their different niches and areas and the value that they can add to drive impact using technical assistance. And, it reminds me of a very good example of a project we're just working on in Sierra Leone, where we're working with the FAD on that project. It's a rural development project. So fantastic story, fantastic impact. 300,000 people, in terms of beneficiaries, and we're putting $30 million in that project. But we thought about it. How can we use our technical assistance to enhance the impact of this project? And it's small amounts of money. So we said, okay, the World Food Program, it's one of our key partners. We have an agreement with them. They have this fantastic school feeding program. What can they come in to this project? We provided a grant of $1.2 billion. We have a very strong focus on clean cooking. As you know, 2.3 billion people. Exactly. So we said, World Food Program, take this money, let's work together. Can you put in place school feeding programs using clean cooking facilities to provide meals for these students? And that's, a grant component that's going to, multiply the impact of that project. Just a small amount of money. And in the same project, we also have a partnership with SC4All. We said, SC4All, come in, give you $800,000. Maybe you can buy clean cooking stoves for the families of those students in schools. So in their homes, they have clean cooking. In schools, they have clean cooking. And, the project itself is still there. So for me, I fully agree with what Thomas said. We, apart from just the MDBs, we also need to find a way to pull in as many different partners as possible for each project, because this is really how you can multiply the impact of our dollars. Thank you very much.
Great, drop the mic. Tom, you have fun. Look at that. Amazing. So no, I agree with that. And I think, these things about pooling resources is not about MDBs or PDBs. I mean, it's about all of that. And actually, I think in my mind, there is a conversation about the FFD4, right? I mean, this Sevilla, with Tom, we were just discussing about that. There's a very Sevilla initiatives, right? I think one of those should be actually referred to this thing. So we should get together, right? Think about it. I mean, Solomon had a couple of good models and how we are going to go on this together and then say, let's go and deploy this model in a couple of countries that actually are championing these things, right? I mean, there are a couple of country platforms that have been selected. There have been a workshop. Let's connect the dots here, right? With the guys that have been spending 2 days at the beginning of the week talking about country platforms, right? So speaking of which, South Africa is a country that has, a country platform, but also, again, Mr. Perames, President Neda, also talked about the need or the value in regional approaches, right? And I think, also it's a question right now where the global cooperation is kind of messy, right? I mean, there is a question about the regional, sub-regional, collaborations. So I really want to go now to Sweli Bansi, right? I mean, and say, obviously, from your perspective, the question is here, well, you hear about the things that are happening, right? And again, I mean, it would be very good to have like from the SADC, perspective, and what is your sense from the field, right? And how this actually feeling. I mean, are you in touch with the developers of this project that are looking for things? And sometimes there is a mismatch between demand and supply of the things, right? So it would be great to hear from your end a reality check on these things, right? And how we can actually work together, right? And what are you requiring from us, right? As providers of it. At the end of the day, we are providers of that. We are suppliers of that type of capital. Not always, we can do ourselves. But, there is a question about, whether we are getting the supply right.
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you for having me on the panel. I think maybe as a start, I should explain exactly what the SADC DFRC does, because it will really give context to my response. So the SADC DFRC is an institution of SADC, which essentially is responsible for supporting the local DFIs and the regional DFIs in terms of being able to, firstly, provide, or rather create a pipeline of projects which foster regional integration. Am I still audible? Yeah. Okay. So firstly, it's to create a pipeline of regional integration projects, which essentially will then allow to and support the Africa Free Trade Continental Area. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to strengthen the capacity of the DFIs themselves, as well as government institutions, so that they would actually be able to firstly de-risk projects, be able to measure the risk and assist in allocating the risk to the right people who can manage the risk. Right. Thirdly is to drive enabling environment within the different countries and the region as a whole in harmonizing policies and regulation to allow for projects to exist. And the way that we do that is it's research backed. So we do a lot of research to assist in ensuring that whatever policies are put in place by the different governments are essentially backed by research, and also that there's clear harmonization within the region. And what that allows for cross-border participation and cross-border financing of projects and collaboration. So what we've noticed in the region is that there's a lot of focus on supporting the developers in the project preparation and project development. But there's also a huge gap in terms of the capacity of government entities, as well as the capacity of the local DFIs in actually being able to evaluate the projects that they are receiving, so that they're able to make sound decisions about financing those projects. So one of the things that we've been focusing on over the past year has been how to create a platform where we can support the DFI network plus local governments in creating an enabling environment so that these developers can thrive. And this is based on a very good example of that, what was done in South Africa with the Independent Power Producer Office, where before you could start thinking about supporting the individual projects, you needed to support the government of South Africa to develop policies and structures that would actually create an enabling environment for you to be able to then take the next step and have developers do a lot of work around the project preparation, etc. So we are focusing on how do we support those two areas, governments and DFIs, to strengthen their capacity, to strengthen their ability to set an enabling environment for these projects to exist. We already have a lot of entities within the region, or rather in the continent, who are supporting project preparation with developers. My colleague from AFDB mentioned some of the work that they do. So there's a lot of work that's at that level, but we're just trying to make sure that a step before that, that actually then also happens as well.
How is it going?
It's
No, I mean, everyone was asking. No, I guess I just asked what everyone is thinking.
Yeah, no, it's still at early stage of development. We engaging, for example, currently with the government of Botswana, where they've got two ambitions. One is they've got an ambition of building 100,000 homes in the next 5 years for their local citizens, and they also have an ambition to construct 6,000 megawatts of power, renewable energy power in the country. But currently they haven't got a clear model of how to do that. So what we are doing is that we are supporting them in putting together the enabling environment that would allow that. But the biggest thing that we are focusing on is not just putting in legislation and policies, but is how do you maximize the participation of private sector in doing this? Because one of the things, for example, you have an entity called BHC in Botswana who's responsible for housing. They've only built a maximum of 2,000 houses per year. Right? Now, the ambition is to build 100,000 houses in 5 years. That's more than 20,000 houses per year. So now how do you help them to scale that? How do you help them to create a space within private sector can come on board and assist in scaling that up? So that's a program that very soon will be going out to market to be able to then attract the funding and be able to attract private sector participation in that space. So that's where we've started doing that. The second place where we've started doing that as well is we've been working with SACRI, the regional body which is responsible for standards on renewable energy in SADC, in terms of how do they set proper standards for renewable energy as well as energy efficiency. So we're working together with them in creating regional standards that all the utilities within the region can then subscribe to.
Fantastic.
We also working with the Southern African Power Pool in terms of standardizing tariffs for the region, for the generation, as well as in terms of standards for transmission infrastructure as well. And creating an environment to then bring in private sector then to participate in building the infrastructure around that as well.
So I don't want to keep quoting Tom, right? Because, it has have many things, many successes, Tom, in your panel. But actually he mentioned policy de-risking and policy enabling environment, right? One of the things on the pillar. And frankly, is important. I mean, it's not only you do project preparation in a vacuum of the right regulatory environment, right? I mean, in order to see things, it's not only about good projects. They have to be projects and then the regulatory framework. M300, with Solomon, obviously the African Bank is championing, a lot of these projects, they need a lot of regulatory environment. I mean, those of things are energy distribution, selling, offtakes, right? That if you don't have the right regulatory environment, it's not going to happen, right? No matter how good projects they are, they need an ecosystem, right? And again, what you're saying that you mentioned is that actually you are actually taking care not only that the project preparation, but also the ecosystem of the enabling environment for those things to happen, which I think is very relevant. Okay, so I know we're conscious of time and everyone wants to actually go and drink. So, 20, 30 seconds each of you, my friends. So what is something that you want to see happening after Fix? So one idea, and then we can get Tom here. We just have a lot of things already, so he can work a little bit. And then take this thing, we can take it, again, we can do to the next Fix, but also we can do to the FFD4, etc. So one wish, and I'm going to be randomly starting with Viviana.
Okay, thank you, Rodrigo. One thing that I think that it's important is to work more together.
Right.
Not only like co-financing, but actually sharing experience. We were talking with him before that maybe it's good to work in strategies together among the institutions, so we can impact better in our region. So.
Fantastic. Okay. So Solomon.
Okay, so I was sitting here quite jealous about the love fest between Fonplata and the OPEC fund, I did my math. 20 billion in 6 years, 3.3 billion a year. If all of that is going towards technical assistance, yes. So I think, Bayo, we need to talk. But on a more serious note, I think the most important thing is that public development banks have a very critical role to play if we're going to achieve our climate change goals. And partnerships are key. And this is why, for me, Fix is a great opportunity to explore that. So that would be my 30 seconds.
More partnership, and it's a common theme here. So, Solibansi, yes, your wish?
Thank you for that. I think I'll probably join the bandwagon and say that partnerships.
Use this one.
Oh yeah.
Change that one. No, there's not.
Yeah, at least I sound better now. I was saying that I think I'm going to join the bandwagon of saying that partnerships are very important. If we think about the work that we do within the regions and the areas that we do, it doesn't help to have multiple programs which are not joint and linked in any way, because the demands of the regions and the areas that we serve are very linked and very similar. And the challenges that we find is that a lot of the initiatives and support that is given is not very well coordinated. I've got 16 countries I'm responsible for, and of the 16 countries, you'll find there's a water project or water program that's being done somewhere else, and an energy program, and there's no coordination in terms of how we support that and ensure that there's clear harmonization. So I think for me, the biggest thing is how do we ensure regional harmonization, not just in Africa, but not just in small regions like in the RICS in Africa, but throughout the continent. And also, how do we take that and do it globally so that we all speak the same language? So when we talk about project preparation, we're talking the same thing. When we say bankable project, we all say the same thing, because there's still a discrepancy in terms of what we mean when we say bankable project. Depends on who you talk to. And we just want to make sure that there's clear alignment in terms of what it is that we mean when we say these things.
Well, you are giving homework to Adama. I hope you are writing. Because
I'm standing between everyone and the cocktails. That's a fantastic position to be in. No, I think, everyone has said it all. I think there's a theme that's running through everyone's responses, which is increased partnerships, increased collaboration, increased sharing, and I fully agree with that. And maybe, something tangible that maybe I can think about is, as MDBs, for example, we have now this global collaborative platform, co-financing platform for projects, right? Why can't we do something similar for TA, for project preparation? We pull our TA resources and we work jointly on preparing projects, because, it's a second level, right? If you don't prepare the projects, you're not going to have the pipeline. So I think all of us coming together as a group, whether at the MDB group or even a wider group, and having some sort of portal or platform where TA work can be documented and invested in, I think would really help achieve our objectives. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mario. So, and again, now we'll go, and then again, I want to be, let's try.
No, it will be very short.
But thank you. No, let me now, thank you so much, Adama, for taking time to come, right? And again, congratulations on a great fix. But you hear, from everyone that actually there is a common thing about partnerships and a common thing about also trusting Fix to actually help us in that journey, right? And also surfacing these things and making the connections. And I think today more than ever, right? We have to trust multilateralism, right, and partnership. So to you, thank you for coming.
No, thank you very much. And this is too much honor, actually, to be honest. And as the day, as busy the day could look like, I couldn't miss also just, talking about what is Fix by design, actually. It's the partnership mindset, right? And the collaboration mindset, while I think many of you don't know what this beautiful logo is, to be honest. I think we're seeing the beautiful colors. It is the deep meaning of public development banks being diverse, different sizes, different localizations, exactly, and probably, all moving in the same way. And the idea with a water drop, which instance, you can take a bulk of water, it's still water. You can drop a water, it's still water. So this idea behind Fix is how we can collaborate more to make the system work in the same direction. And that goes with a spirit of sharing, and that goes with the spirit being open and collaborating among public development banks. And it's true that wherever you take a development banker, I think there is an easy way to just switch them in institutions and they will fit in, because the mindset and what they want to do is pretty much the same. Probably what is missing is the institutional and administrative, heaviness. Let's also see what we have. And institutional heaviness and administrative rigorous is also a capacity issue at the end, because we are speaking about our efficiency and our effectiveness of what we are investing. So as development banks, we want to share that spirit on collaborating more, and that's why within the Finance in Common Summit, we don't only do these summits. Actually, we have actual working groups that are really technically led, where the working groups can define how, from one public development bank to another, you can share your business models, you can share the norms you are working on, and even develop projects together. That's why we see also groups that are coming from there and agreeing on the norms they are working, how we fund together water, how we fund together infrastructures. And we see that really happening, and the mutual reliance being more improved in this ecosystem of public development banks. Let's take the MDB as a community, for instance, going until having a platform where they share the projects they have at the beginning. I think it's a way to go, and congratulations to AIIB that also started that project, and with the World Bank, etc. So let's imagine this at the size of beyond the MDBs, including the national development institutions. Europe has shown the lead at some point on that. You will see MDBs, EIB or World Bank, etc., co-financing projects at the national level with national development institutions. It's not really what we see in Africa, for instance. You will see MDBs collaborating, financing projects in Africa, but often without any national development institutions. And I think that's where also we have this capacity issue. And I think the VP mentioned it earlier. Even if we find magic money today, we have 4 trillion, right? We have 4 trillion to close the gap. Do we have 4 trillion worth project to be invested in? I don't think so. And that's where the capacity issue is. So what is the role of the public development banks in this ecosystem? We are formally advocating for public development banks to be an origination machine at the national level, meaning that if they have the right capacity, they can create projects for the community of PDBs to invest in those projects. So that's also how can we do it? Helping those national development institutions to level up. So several initiatives we have been seeing are also in this regard. And I want to commend also the work our colleagues from IFAD are doing. It's really, underneath, we don't hear much about it, but you may know that now we have a Finance in Common coalition for agribusiness and agricultural investment with 180 PDBs that joined that platform. And what was even surprising is to see those public development banks, their request for technical assistance is on sustainable investment in their value chain. And I mean, the sustainable agenda itself is, becoming a new normal in this ecosystem. And I also want to commend the work we are seeing in the Regional Association of DFIs, which are also the founding members of Finance in Common. If you look at the ADFI coalition in Africa, the ALIDE in Latin America and ADFIAP in Asia, all those, ecosystem of PDBs, they are formally working on raising the technical assistance and the capacity of their members, with the help of the regional association, the regional MDB supporting also that process. We need to push that further because it's not, speed enough. And you have also a full capacity, full community of, practitioners and of course, Jeremy, I think, mentioned that, being more embedded with the development banking ecosystem. And I think in this regard also, AFD has shown how the capacity should be linked with the financing. So there is several things to say. The last, just I want to mention, is that the biggest, I think, market failure in capacity building, business is the knowledge itself of the capacity supply. You see, often we hear that there is, of course, there is funding for this kind of, needs, but people that need that funding don't even know about that. Not that the suppliers or the offer banks or institutions that have that, that capacity grants, not that they hide it, they want that to be used, but just having the clear information of where that offer is and how it can be linked with the beneficiaries is a problem itself. It's a capacity issue itself. That's where we think that within Finance in Common, we want to help implementing the G20 task force, on an action plan regarding technical assistance, which was decided in 2023, in also creating a tool where we, help matching the need from the public development banks, that are needing this TA with the TA supply that exists. So it was a long road, and I just want to congratulate my team here that were working on that, and we were also inspired by what our colleagues from GFANZ and the GBCP were doing, in order to just say, okay, what do we know about the TA offer today? So compiling that information and made just one catalog, which is accessible in the Finance in Common website for its members to just have the information of this is available for you. So can you get it, cannot you get it? That is another info. But at least having that knowledge is a big step. So for sure, we will keep that work going. And I definitely is conscious that you have a cocktail to join. So I may stop here, but for sure, this is a really important issue for us. Please be aware of the developments we will have in this regard within the Finance in Common Coalition, and go raise your capacity in the cocktail that is happening on the front beach.
Raise your glass, right?
Raise your glass, and whatever deal you wanna make there, I think the cocktail will help. Really, thank you for being here. We have been having today a great day of discussion. 2,000 people were here, right. And really congratulations for you all to put your mind at work while the cocktail is still working. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adama. Thank you. Okay. Free at last. Yes.